Good evening and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Duro for their ongoing support in bringing you our fortnightly Q&A.
Tonight, we're fortunate enough to be speaking to Ross McIntosh from McIntosh Ag Services Livestock Contracting. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good, thanks, buddy. What'd you do today?
We're actually just doing a bit of maintenance in the workshop at the moment. So we're in between a couple of foot rot eradication programs. So good way to just get on top of a little bit of maintenance. Unfortunately, things break. So we've got to do it sometime.
Mate, if we're talking foot rot eradication, I'm assuming there's been a bit of wet weather.
No, the last few years have been pretty wet, but this year's actually been very dry for Victoria. Yep. But it's the best time to do programs. Just there's no spread period, so obviously you can get into it earlier. And then once the program started, you really got until that autumn break until you can start to have problems again, unless you get a big storm that comes through where you'd need over 100 mil to really affect a program. But summer's definitely the time to get onto it.
And how long have you been doing this?
So I started contracting it was 5 years ago now. I did a lot of working on farms before that, and I wanted to be a farm manager, and I managed a few farms. And it was good and all, but I felt like I could do more, but I was limited to what I could do because obviously, it's other people's money and you got to work in with them. And I'm kind of one of those blokes that has an idea and I just want to go out and do it. And if someone's behind me, there's no kind of stopping me. But if people are putting brick walls in front of me, I kind of get sick of it after a while. So then, started contracting, and it wasn't all roses like I thought it might be at the start. I had a bit of work booked up, and I wanted to really do a lot of sheep work, but the sheep work wasn't really there, and other than spring and autumn, and so I ended up doing whatever I could to just make a bit of money, just keep afloat. So I made a lot of dog cages and just random stuff like that. Went picked up rocks, drove machinery, just did anything. And then I kind of got sick of doing that pretty quick. And I started landmarking. Then I went foot pairing because I knew I could do that. And someone put me onto a bloke named Job and Webware, who is a big consultant for a lot of big companies and or a lot of big farms. And he's a bit of a guru in the foot rot game. And he gave me my first job, which was 1,000 sheep, and then the next year he gave me, I think, about 15,000. So things just skyrocketed pretty quick. But like I said, as soon as I kind of had an idea, I just kind of went flat, and unfortunately, it's worked very well for me. I'm busier than I've ever been.
Good problem to have.
Yeah.
So where's home, mate?
So I'm at Colac, which is about an hour from Geelong, southwest of Geelong, 2 hours from Melbourne. We're just on the edge of the Otways rainforest, which joins the Great Ocean Road. I don't know if you know that kind of area.
I do, yeah. I drove it myself once. Loved it.
Yeah. Probably never want to do it again.
No, cool. Is it the town? Was it Lorna? The town there?
Lawn, yeah, that's
Lawn?
right.
Yeah. Sorry, got stuck with my mum's name then. I was only meant to be there for a night. I think I ended up there for a week. It was just cracking. I rang the boss and said, I need a couple of extra days. So it was just really nice.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
So about an hour. So southwest of here again, a little town called Warrnambool.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably 20 minutes from there. Was our farm at another place called Woolsthorpe, and grew up there. And family farm there is 1,200 acres, and I was dead keen on farming from probably about 13, 14. And my parents weren't, though. They didn't want me to be a farmer. They pretty much said to me, nah, don't do farming. It's not there's no money in it. You know, go to school, do this, do that. And yeah, I kind of just thought, yeah, right, I'll go get a trade. Did work experience to trade. No, that doesn't, nah, not doing that. And so, yeah, I ended up bringing around a few people and then ended up in farming for Midfield, which had a big farm next door to us, the Union Station, which was, yeah, where everything began for me pretty much in my career.
So how old were you when you left school and jumped in there?
I was 18. I actually loved school. I wasn't much of a student, but I loved the social part of it. So I just did VCAL, which allowed me to do 3 days of school and 2 days of work. And so I went to school to have a party pretty much, and then I went back to work to earn enough money. So I could go out and hang out with my mates pretty much. So yeah. I didn't do much well in the studying part, but the teachers didn't want too much, so that was all right.
Go to school to hang out and sleep.
Yeah. It was very easy. It was very easy.
So I forgot the name of town where you are now.
Colac.
Colac, sorry.
Yeah.
How far would you travel from home, mate?
To Colac or for work?
Oh no, for work. Like, have you got kind of radius?
I'll go anywhere. Like, so we've got a fair few clients over in South Australia. We've done a bit of work around Gundagai before, New South Wales. I even had a bloke message me about a job in Queensland. So like, I'm not phased about going anywhere really, just as long as the client's happy and I'm happy. Like, yeah, it doesn't, as long as I can make it work, it's not too logistically a nightmare. I'm happy to do anything, but yeah, we do go, our biggest clients over in South Australia, and we go over there for probably about 5-6 weeks of the year. Yeah.
What is it about your job you enjoy?
The challenge, the constant challenge. Like, if it's not managing people, it's like the challenge of doing the foot ride programs. Sometimes very, very hectic and challenging. Just getting as much work done in a tight period, and seeing people grow. Yeah, there's so much to it that I never really expected, and the business part of it's actually something I've really grown to enjoy too, as well as the dogs though. Like, the dogs have been something I've had to change a lot, especially with training and that, to try and get me dogs going on the ground sooner and giving them little bits of work here and there to try and get their confidence up. I always wanted to be on the, I suppose, pushing up to the cradles and all that type of stuff, but mostly find myself on the cradle. So yeah, you got to get creative and really think about things a lot of the time. So, but that's a good part of it. It keeps you, yeah, it's good to be uncomfortable sometimes because it keeps you guessing and keeps you figuring things out.
Definitely. And you say like 5 or 6 weeks. What's the process of, getting all that organized and, food, accommodation, all those sorts of things, like the planning into that?
Yeah. So like we have a lot of systems for stuff like that. So like if we're going away, all the workers and stuff know that I'll do a shop the day before and we'll take most of our food with us. And, a lot of it can be cooked in 10, 15 minutes. So everyone has a turn. Everyone cooks for everyone. Everyone cleans up. It's a big, we treat almost like a family. We've got to look after each other. And, yeah. But
that's really cool.
The clients are just as invested in us as we are in them. So they're always trying to make sure that we're comfortable and got everything we need. And if there's any problems, we talk to them. If they've got any problems, they talk to us. So,
yeah.
Is there a team member that when it's their time to cook, you're like, oh, I've got this, or you kind of find them?
Yeah. It is funny, a bit like that. Yeah, you do definitely get the people that seem to disappear when it's cooking or something, and they're happy to clean, or they gotta go. They're feeding their dogs exactly when they should be doing this. Yeah, you always get a few like that, but yeah. At the end of the day, I suppose we've all got our quirk, don't we? Just work with them,
mate. So that said, like we've mentioned our dogs here a couple of times now. You're running your own show. Did your parents have dogs on their property?
Yeah, definitely. We always had probably only one or two Kelpies. My father was always into hunting dogs mostly, big in fox shooting, but the Kelpies were definitely part of it. Not a huge part though. It was pretty old fashioned. It was just a way back, fetch them up, and that was about it. And that's how I learned, and I learned a lot of bad habits.
What were the old boys' fox dogs?
They're all greyhound stags. So yeah, we like the quick dogs. Because we had a few foxes, probably just as many as everyone else, but they were just good to have. They never worried the sheep, but just to keep, we'd probably get 50, 60 easily through the years. So it was good to have them just to keep on top of, when you're lambing, all that type of stuff. So
what was your first dog, mate?
It was a Cooley Kelpie cross.
I mean, interesting.
Yeah, it was a bit interesting. I actually got a dud Kelpie first out of a litter, which was a bit unfortunate. He only lasted a week, and I took him to the vet, and he had a bad liver or something, and that we had to put him down. And the vet her father was coming over to visit and had this Kelpie Cooley cross, and said she just felt so bad for me because I was only about 10 or 11, so obviously I was in tears about it all and all that type of stuff. And they just said, "Well, here, we got another dog for you if you want to take that home." So sorry, yada yada yada. And she was a cool natured like little dog. She looked a bit like a hyena actually. Like she was like real reddish markser and stuff, and a cream body, or white body. But Piper was her name, and she wasn't much of a working dog, to be honest. She had a lot of eye, and she'd just cast and pull up, and that was about it, pretty much. She didn't do a hell of a lot, but we loved her, and I didn't know much different for a couple of years. And then when I started working, and she was pretty old, I bought I got a couple of dogs in, which were a hell of a lot better. One being my main dog, Boss, for a long time. He was a Kelpie Collie cross, and all his siblings were red, and he looked like a pure border collie, with a bit of tan on his legs. And he was my main dog for years. He's probably one of the all-time greats, to be honest. But
what was it about him that you call him all-time greatest? Like, what is it about?
Just his all-around capability, especially like at the time, about a young fella and not having too much to do with like what a good dog was. He showed me a lot, and he could do anything. It didn't matter if at the job we used to get cattle from Broome and Catherine and process for the abattoirs every week. And so you'd get them straight off the truck, and they'd be mad as hell. And I'd be able to put him out, and didn't matter what come at him. He had a big hot nose bite and a hock bite, or he was strong. He was really strong. And then you get him on shape, and he could cast nicely and just drive him real. He had pretty good feel about him. Like he wasn't like a real grippy dog, but he just kind of held the mob together and just kept them moving. So it was just always easy. Like I never had to worry about never having enough punch or running. Me and him did 12 hours a day every day for 2 years pretty much. And, you know, that was 4,500 head of cattle we'd be working, and sometimes up to around 70,000 head of sheep on the property. That we might only have them, you know, 5,000 lambs for a week, and then they'd go into an abattoirs and get killed. So like, it's just constantly sheep and cattle moving
around. Something to do.
Yeah, and it didn't matter what I come up against with him. He was always, you know, could get the job done.
You mentioned there earlier about like when you're a young fella having that one Kelpie dog at your parents' place, and it was pretty vanilla flavored, like what the dog could do. How have things progressed now?
Yeah, definitely. Come a long way since then. Like, I don't even know how to explain. Like back then, like I had a type of dog, and then my type of dog changed when I was managing, because I've had so many different roles, and the whole the jobs are always completely different. Yes. So like my types of dogs have always changed a little bit. You know, when you go from background in cattle mainly, and then you go to managing a sheep station and having your own breeding flock, and you could actually train the sheep and educate the sheep. Suddenly you could, you know, have dogs that didn't need to do so much, and you didn't have to talk to or communicate at all to what I'm doing now. You need something with second and third gears sometimes to get them through, and a type of dog that doesn't have self-preservation sometimes, even because you know you can come up against some pretty hard-headed stock that haven't seen dog, and pretty hard on them.
Was there anyone that helped influence the way you went about changing, or even your type of dog?
Yeah. So, so I used to talk to a lot of people that I used to work close to. So Vin Getty was a big one for me starting out when I first started managing, because he was 5 minutes down the road. So a lot of our country, our sheep country, was rocks, and he'd grown up around rocks his whole life, and he had the dogs bred for him and that. So I spent a fair bit of time with him, and I had a dog, Stu, that I got off Joe Spicer, and he was an unbelievable dog. He could grip him and hold stock together insanely well and read him, and he had a big beam of bark. But I just didn't know how to use him because he didn't want to work for me. He just worked for himself a lot. And I'd come from having a dog that would want to do anything for me and love me, and he'd go to war for me. And then I had this dog that just wanted to work for himself and blocked me out a fair bit. And so Vin taught me a lot about stock movement and how to educate the dog through letting him go and do his thing. And just shut up and let the dog do it, I suppose. And that taught me a hell of a lot very early on. And he actually got me into trialing as well, which led me to meet a lot more people who always called upon when if I had a change in job or when I come into contracting. There was a lot of contractors in trialing, so it made it a lot easier to kind of talk to them if I was having troubles. With where I wanted to go with my dogs.
It's funny that you mentioned Vin and the country there, like the rocky country. I was actually hiking in New Zealand there the last couple of weeks. That's why we missed the week of dog talk. And I got talking to some people over there that are from around that Geelong area, and it happens to be Vin's brother-in-law.
Yeah, right.
Out of nowhere, like just talking to him out of nowhere, because he was talking and we're talking about like what we do, and we just start talking about dogs, and he asked if I heard of Scorioka, and we're just talking, and he goes, anyways, works out it's his brother-in-law, and he was actually mentioned about the terrain he works and how rocky and how big some of these boulders actually are. Like you can't get to your dog. Like he said, in some of these areas, you can't get a two-wheeler in there. Like he said, like, you really need that natural type of dog that just gets out and can work. For itself. a little.
And they just have to have a certain amount of smarts about them too. Like the sheep gets so cluey with knowing where to hide and that. And sometimes you'd be driving around the bottom of a rock pile, and then you'd before you go around it, the sheep are going in the right direction. Then you'd have to walk up to the top to have a look if there's any sheep anywhere hiding in there. And so they'd pop out and they'd always go in the wrong direction. So talking to Vin and watching some of his dogs, then you really saw the natural ability in them and the natural smarts, and they'd fit it out what the sheep would be, where they'd be hiding and lurking and all that type of stuff. So he taught me a lot about the natural ability and the genetics of dogs and what you need to look for in what you're doing, what type of work you're doing. And that helped me a lot early on because, like I said, the first job I actually had, it was only 5 hectares and it was techno grazing. So, it was very much like a New Zealand, really intense property in terms of grazing. And then you go to a rocky place like that and the paddocks are a lot bigger and your dog needs to have a nice natural cast and searching ability and all those type of things. It wasn't something that I'd even thought about before I went and started doing it.
And these days, what's the ideal dog for you these days?
I love a dog that grips their stock nicely and has a lot of forward movement, nice cover, and a positive dog, and has to have a big boomer bark. If it didn't have a big boomer bark, it'd have to have like an awesome way, like just be able to spear or position itself on the shape where it didn't need it. So just like able to come up on that side and then just maneuver its head or its shoulders a little bit just to kind of affect the mob in the right way. And a natural backing dog's always good in our job, like because they do so much of it, but they do get used to it pretty quick. I've had plenty of dogs that haven't been natural and they tend to be quite good after a while. It's that repetition of the job that teaches them over time. But those few things definitely are what I look for in a dog now.
Is there a line of dog that suits that requirement for you now that you like to stick towards?
I hadn't really found the one dog that I absolutely loved. There was a dog my mate had, native hut digger. Marcus Campbell had him that came pretty bloody close to it. He was an unreal dog, and he read his stock quite well. But I almost wanted a cross between him and my old dog Stu, because like Digger was one of those dogs that he would work for you all day, every day. And he was such a great dog in terms of a companion as well as a work dog. But Stu gripped his stock, and outside he was unreal. He was probably just a little bit too fizzy and dirty to be that ideal dog for me going forward. But yeah, like I think I've almost got it now. I've got a dog, Shadow Creek Hondo, which I bred, and he grips his stock unreal. He's got a big boomer bark on him, and he's only 2.5 yet, and he's still a little bit fizzy in the head. But his sire is Broken River Jake, and it did take about 4 years until Dale said to me he really started getting an unreal handle on him. So I'm looking forward to how he progresses. But yeah, like he's unreal. He can work outside on a big mob. He's got awesome feel outside, and then you get him inside. And if I'm forcing some or getting some shape up a force race or a big long bugle, like I can just send him halfway and he lets out a big boom and bark, and 100 shape will just run straight for that bugle. It's unreal. And then when he comes back, get straight to his point. He'll just stop and allow things to happen, and then assess it how he goes. I really like that about him.
Do you being so busy? Do you is a lot of your training on the job, or do you just go? You keep them at home until they're kind of ready, or like will you progressively do some stuff at work?
I used to do everything on the job, but I found where I needed to get to with the level of my dogs to be competitive. I had to start training more at home because I just couldn't get enough work underneath them and all round work. Always found the yard work makes a dog pretty fizzy, and it's not always when they're a bit fizzier. It's not a great way to get training into them.
Yeah.
So I do a lot with them now, a lot younger. So around that 3 or 4 months, I just obviously put them on shape and ignite that flame. Get them just getting around their stock, get them noticing me a little bit, and then I'll put them away for a little bit, and I do a lot of just lead work and just bonding with them. It's massive. I found once you start taking them to work, if you've got that good bond with them, and you're only working them for 5-10 minutes, and they're wanting to work for you, they progress a lot quicker. So I try and get that bond as quick as possible, and then I take them back to the training yard about 5-6 months, and then do a bit more with them, get them balanced, and get a good recall and a bit of a stop and a go, whistle, and then I take them to work. I find once I got that recall and a stop and a go whistle, the stop's not even the biggest one, just even a go and a come. Then as soon as I get used to banging around sheep and the job and just, getting them to push past sheep and all that type of little things, they get comfortable with it. And then suddenly, like, you take them back to the training pen at about 8 or 9 months, you can get sides and they're confident, and you get them backing and barking and, an off and a sit and a stop and just all those things to a point where you take them to work, and then suddenly they start putting it together, and I found then you don't have so much of the catastrophes of chasing after a pup that's got them through the back gate and he's run. You can't call him back, and he's rounding up the mob out the back, all that type of stuff.
What's the training setup look like, mate? Are you using?
It's very ordinary. It's very ordinary. I haven't got a lot to work with. I've got 2 very, very docile composite ewes that follow me around and all that. That nothing. I don't use anything special in terms of races. I've got a McDougall set of yards that I've just kind of set up in a round pen, and I can't even move it now because they're all rusted together. I've got a big enough outside area that once they kind of notice me and take notice of me a little bit, like I can affect them with a bit of body pressure. We go out and do a bigger yard. The sheep don't really run away, so it makes it pretty easy to get that stop and come and lefts and rights, all that type of stuff. But yeah, she's nothing special, that's for sure.
Do you want to tell us about a couple of your members in camp at the moment?
Probably the older ones have got a collie, Flirt. She was a station bred dog for a breeder down at Tasmania. And my wife, actually, she was adamant that I had to have a collie because they were way better. So I was like, righto, you get me a collie, and she got me a collie, and it wasn't this dog, and it was rubbish. It wasn't any good at all. And then the bloke kind of got in my ear, and he's like, no, I've got some good ones. And I was like, righto, sent me another one, wasn't any good. Anyway, long story short, he was adamant to prove a point, so he sent me this dog, and her name's Flirt, and her original name was actually Sexy. And I said to the bloke, I was like, this just keeps getting better and better, mate. I was like, if it ends on this note, I was like, it's going to be a good story. But yeah, I changed it to Flirt because obviously I couldn't be at a trial calling a dog Sexy. And she's been the best dog work dog that I've had in like the last 5 years, since a couple of my other dogs have kind of got older and haven't been able to keep up with the hard work. Like she works more like a Kelpie than a collie, but I've been assured she's mostly collie by the breeder. But yeah, she's been a good dog for a long time. And then I've got a dog called Swagger, who Joe Spicer bred, and he goes back to Sunraysia George, he's his grandfather, and a dog, Bender Puck Tricks, is the mother. And yeah, so he's been a very good dog for me too. He was probably a dog that got me more onto a bit more of a calm minded dog, and he's super smart. He taught me a lot about a natural work in the yards. He always just seemed to be able to figure it out. Like you'd after about 2 years of age, like you could get him to come up and he'd just top knot the right one and sort it out. And then you could cut. I never had levers on a dog until him, where you get him to come round to any shape that you need to affect, you could just put him there. So he's been a really good addition to the team. And then an original dog, Stu, that I had, I've got a son of his, Goose, who's getting pretty on now, and he's just always been a workhorse. You ever talk to anyone, I suppose, who's got a big team, they've always got that go-to workhorse dog that just never stops and takes every hit on the chin. And yeah, he's that dog for me for a long time. And yeah, I've kind of followed on a bit from that Jake line, and so I've got a couple of young pups coming through that a dog named Kuma and a bitch named Ethel that were bred to I've had a mental blankie. Somerset Buff, out of the same bitch, and I really like what they're showing me too. They've been they're about 12 months old now, and they're in full time work, and they've been doing an awesome job. So.
And are you breeding many of them yourself?
I'm having a go at it. I keep buying in stuff that I like, but I am starting to find that I'm getting a type that I'm really trying to chase. So I'm breeding at least one litter a year, just to just to kind of build on what I've got, what I've been breeding, and I'll always buy in 3 or 4 pups a year though, just to try different size and just even stuff that's maybe similar bred to what I've got. I bought 2 recently off Mark Mangold, who had that litter of Capri Outlaw and Peterson's Dice.
He'll love that.
I wish you didn't mention his name. He's going to ask us for some credits now.
I'm going to have a message in the next 20 minutes for sure. He's already been messaging me today.
Right. Well, you will probably know Mark. Well, you know Mark a lot more than me. I've only had the one phone call, so.
Oh, mate, you'll get another 20 in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so well, I do like what he's what he bred there, so I gave that a go. Chris sent me through a few videos of that Capri Outlaw, and he looked like he definitely had something to my team. So
you mentioned that George stuff there that you like earlier, and you're going to get that through Dice as well, through the bitches line. So,
that's exactly right. Yeah, that's why. When I saw the George stuff, and then I saw Outlaw, what he was doing, And then even what Dice has bred in that Diesel, I saw him, and I liked a lot of what he can do as a silent worker. I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. So I'll give that a go and see what comes of that.
Is there much of that blood down your way, or is it sort of new to the area?
No, there's not a hell of a lot. Like, people have tried it. In terms of stuff, like, I know Mitch Jubb's got 5, which is out of Rita. I'm pretty sure it's out of Rita. And yeah, there's like a little bit of that stuff around. Yeah, and then there was a bit getting around by I think it's Darcy, which was a little mate to George as well. So yeah, I have seen it. There's not a hell of a lot, but yeah, there's a fair bit of rouse about stuff and that, which I followed on early because I get along with Craig Ogier fairly well, and yeah, and like until that George stuff really come along, there hasn't been really anything that's tickled me fancy, but there's not a lot. There's not a lot of real big station country out here that I think, from what I've heard, George really thrived in. Yeah.
And you mentioned that dog there a bit earlier that you got from Joe, and you said like he'd like to work for himself a bit. He wouldn't have been out of a blue dog or blue bitch, would he? Like a pre-blue too?
Nah. No, he wasn't. He was out of a dog, Baru Monkey.
Yep.
And a bitch, Go Get a Towel, which was True Blue.
Josh.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it was. Yeah. And then, so those dogs, I remember his mother had a lot in her.
Notorious for motors.
Hey?
Notorious for motors.
Yeah. And I know Monkey had a good amount of talent for blocking Joe out. So yeah, it's one of those things. I think what I got in that dog, the good parts were really good, and then the bad parts were bad. So, but it's just one of those things that you get. Doesn't matter what dog you come across. Like we all critique them extremely hard. But in terms of all those dogs, are extremely good workers, and there's nothing. You'd more than be happy if you were starting out having them in your team. That's for sure.
Mate, if anyone ever turns around and says they can't find a fault in their dog, they're not looking hard enough or not being honest to themselves.
Yeah.
Like, we have this conversation all the time. I get a new dog and someone will always say, "Oh, when you're done with it, can you send it my way?" And I'm like, "No, I like this one." They go, "Yeah, but you find something wrong with it." Like,
6 months turnaround.
So, that said, mate, how do you pick your pup, and what are you looking for in, say you have a litter of young pups? What are you looking in that pup that you're going to pick?
It's really simple. It's just really a gut feeling. When I start, just hanging out with the pups a little bit, and they start moving around, running around, and that, I just, for some reason, every pup I've ever picked, I've had a good gut feeling about it. I didn't even need to say it on stock. I seem to go all right with that dog. I've had a lot better success than if I say it on stock, and someone kind of like say one of the studs or the owner of them will try and talk to me about it and say why he reckons it'll be a good dog and all this type of stuff. If I didn't have a good feeling about it after all that and I took it, I just never seemed to do well with it. So for me, it was just always pick it on a gut feeling, and I've never really changed my mind from that. I've had good success, and I think I've tried a few different things that I've actually learned off watching, listening to dog talk, and I've still found that my way is just suited me.
Is there something that you might see in a pup or a characteristic and you just like, yeah, I won't keep that one?
Yeah. If it's I'm not big on runts. I don't like runts. I don't like a dog that's a bit timid, won't come up to me. I do like a bit more of that bolder nature. Yeah, and so it doesn't even have to be like I don't really care about if it's super smart. Like I know this last litter I had, there was a the pups were just escape artists. They kept getting out of their little pen, and the one that I kept was it was the only one left in the pen. And one of the workers at the time, she kept saying, "Ross, you got the dumb one. You got the dumb one." And I said, "Oh, we all need a slave." So, yeah, I thought to myself, nah, he'll be good. He's not dumb at all, but yeah, like I remember she took one that was she was always the one getting out. And she was having a lot of issues with that dog because it was so smart and it was so full on. You know, it was always taking the piss a little bit out of her, and she was still learning a lot. And yeah, it's one of those things. I think, it doesn't really. The biggest thing's always just the gut feeling, and just if they're a bit bolder nature and want to be around you. I always like those dogs that, are easy to have around because they want to be around you.
Yeah, it's nice to have those ones. My thing now is I can't have those 1 to 2 matey. They don't seem to work out for me. I just kept number 3 over the last 8 years. That was that way. Yeah, and still no good. I find that worse. It's kind of when you start working them, you kind of let them down a bit because they want to be with you, not the relationship. Or even like they might work, but they're like, wait a minute, no, we're like best mates. Like you can't ask me to do it that particular way, you know. And that was it.
Yeah,
strikes out for me.
No, you got to.
Yeah.
I like those brazen ones. I like the ones that want to, go for a walk up the gully and the thing wants to beat me and looks back and go, "You coming or not?" Right, and then you take it for a walk and you're jumping over logs and running up rocks and the thing's just like, I'm getting up here. And even if it's like too big for it, it's like, well, I'm going to find a way up to beat you. Like exactly what you're mentioning there. It's so cool.
I think what's probably helped me a lot is having that bit of broken river Jake and that law desire is that strong to work that they're constantly fighting to please you, but they're constantly fighting to work. So I haven't had a drama yet with them where they've agreed not to go to work. You know, they've just hung around me that if there's sheep there, they've wanted to take off from them. But yeah, I could definitely see how you can get dogs that definitely want to stay around you, or do just not do the hard work for you. Because of that, for sure.
Would your dogs most of the time be pushing up now, or would you still do a bit of paddock work as well?
So last year, I reckon I did about 6 days of paddock work. And so I found a lot of my younger dogs coming through, they'll be going really good after 2 or 3 days, and then they don't do any paddock work, and then they forget a lot of it. So they do enough where they can hold a mob together and they can drive and all that type of stuff, and you can do the job. But in terms of getting that dog that's super smart and knows, can smell out where the sheep are, all that type of stuff, and just cast for days. I just don't have that in my team anymore. I've a couple of my older dogs that I did a lot of the mustering when I managed. They were that type of dog, and I've kind of moved them on now, just as they retired. And so that's something that I'm really lacking. If I went and did 2 weeks work up a Kangaroo Mountain for Adam James when he was up there about 3 years ago, and I could not believe how hard it was to muster a 30 hectare paddock there with my dogs on the first day. And then for a third day, I think I was mustering 150 hectare paddocks with giant hills and all this stuff, like all this terrain that was just insane to me. But after 2 weeks of going there, I saw a lot of good work in me dogs that I would never have seen if I didn't go up there. One, and this is probably why I like the George stuff a lot. In Swagger, who was about 18 months when I went up there, and I hardly used him at all in the paddock, and he would cast probably about 100 meters at the start, and then by the end of the 2 weeks, like I could cast him, nearly half a K away, pull him up, and then I could resend him, and he'd break out, just really curve right out and recast and pick up sheep where I didn't even know where they were because you couldn't say them.
Brains, can you?
No, and that's probably why I've haven't say much of the George stuff down here, because that kind of stuff I would never be able to put in terrain where I am to say that. And yeah, I've really kind of come to the conclusion that if I'm picking a dog based on paddock ability, I really need to see that type of work to know, because that was just purely natural. Like I didn't teach him any of that. I was all in him. And then so like when I'm picking a yard dog now that I want to breed from, I really want to try and look for that dog that's either grips them really well and can hold a mob. That's the most important thing. But if I know the dog can kind of do that, well, that, like what Swagger did do, that's just a big bonus. Like I don't need it, but it is cool to have if, say, someone wants to buy me dogs down the track, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Do you sell a few young dogs, or do you like to try and hold on to them, or do you try to bring on an additional one to kind of get a few out there?
I'm constantly training dogs because I want to get better at it. I'm really driven to do better at training them and figure out how I can best get it, what I can best get out of a dog. And I feel like the only way you can do that is just train dogs. So I do sell a fair few starter dogs and train dogs and stuff. Probably about 6 a year, 6 or 7, which is about my limit with how much work I do. But yeah, I'm just starting to probably. I always sold them to clients because I liked them going to a person that I knew, and I wanted to place them with the right person. But I'm just going to probably start trying a few auctions and stuff like that, just purely because I'm starting to breed a few pups and that. So I wouldn't mind just trying to get probably a bit of a name, just sell a couple through the auction. So if people wanted a pup, I can sell a few pups, maybe do another litter, maybe 2 litters a year.
Yeah.
That question I asked you there, and then you said why you do it. But earlier you mentioned, I actually skipped my mind to even think about it. You mentioned about like stuff you've learned off this podcast. You actually mentioned that. Like, what would some of those things, like some of those takeoffs be? Like, just out of curiosity.
Oh, geez, now you start me. Yeah, like the puppy stuff was a big one that I got. Like all the kind of things that little critique, like when someone says they like a bowl puppy, or like they might pick them up and put them on their back, or like just they had ways of kind of testing the temperament or any of that type of stuff with them. Like that stuff really, I really interests me a lot. It's kind of stuff that you probably would never learn unless you talk to someone else, unless, another 30, 40 years down the track when you've tried every single thing you could possibly think of. So, yeah, those are probably a big thing. But also how people go about their work, like when they're talking about, training them on the job, or, their training setups, or how they like to go about it. There's always just something. There might be just a small word sentence that comes to mind is Trav Scott always said to me, desire was a massive thing in his pups.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he chucks them out, like, as long as they got the desire, like, he's more than happy to let his workers work them and then take them back to training yard and then just refine them a bit. As long as you had that desire. And so, like, it always kind of clicked with me a little bit, because when I used to take them out to work, I used to always try and micromanage them a little bit, because I was worried about them getting bad habits, all that type of stuff. It kind of made me realise that, if a bloke like that can do it and not worry about the repercussions, well, I'm going to give it a go and just see what happens. And it was amazing how much, you learn just letting the dog go and let it get its feelings and its confidence on the sheep, just figure things out. And then you take it back to a training yard, it's full of confidence. And then you suddenly, before it's really got a habit, you're just instilling that good habit back into it.
Yeah.
How much that can make a big difference, and having that desire to just constantly go to work and work for nearly anyone. Like, like that's stuck with me for a fair bit.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering. Sorry.
No, that's all right. You go.
I was going to say thanks for answering that. It was like, before we went live tonight, we were just talking about like dog talk and how we're just like yarning dogs. But I think we actually do sometimes forget that people can actually learn from and educate themselves from speaking or just hearing from a whole heap of different people as well, right? It's not just learning about somebody's story and what they like and what they don't like and different things. So the fact that you actually have taken some stuff away from that and you gave us that feedback, man, I really appreciate that. I don't actually think about it like that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's there's probably a lot more too. Like, but yeah, that's probably the one thing that's come to mind.
When you were saying that, are you saying you let your workers work your dogs as well?
Yeah, I do. So we have got a pretty high turnover of staff, just to the it's a bit of a ridiculous lifestyle. We're away for probably 6 months of the year, probably even a bit more. And they get a lot of skills, but I like people with good attitudes and a bit of a good drive, and I like to keep helping it by giving them opportunities. And it's hard for a young person when they're only going to be here for 12 months or 2 years. It's hard to like get them into it and get them going.
Keep them motivated.
So, yeah, keep them motivated. So like I always thought if they spend 3-4 months landmarking constantly and work their ass off, and then they don't have, and they're into dogs and they don't work dogs, well, they kind of need to get that go in the next stage, whether we're drenching at weaning or just doing a bit of paddock work or any of that type of stuff. They need to be able to have a go. So I've got a couple of old dogs that I start them off, because I feel like if you learn from a dog with good natural ability and knows the job, you'll learn a lot quicker and you'll get confidence quicker.
Yeah.
Because the dog just does the job, and then it allows them to kind of just make sure they're doing the right thing by getting in the right spots, and I can communicate with them. It's nothing worse if they've got a 6-month-old pup and all they want to do is have a go, but the dog's out, the poor little pup's out there just lugging a sheep, because that's all it knows, and they're too busy worried about that, and then their sheep not getting pushed up to my cradle. So it gives them a bit of a basis. And then I at the moment, like for instance, we're just at home doing maintenance, and I'm just trying to knock off an hour early each day so we can go down and train some dogs and get their dogs going a bit better. And I always say too, like if we're at a job and we're at Smoko, if there's a pen of sheep that needs to be moved or something like that, go get your pup, move that pen of sheep. You know, just little things like that. That's what I do with my pups to get them going and get confidence in them. So it does help them a hell of a lot to get a bit of a start. And I think it is one of the things that's helped me keep people for a little bit longer. I did have a girl that worked for me, and she said she was adamant she was only going to stay for 3 months. And I said to her, "You do realise it's a 4-year apprenticeship, you know, working dogs. Like it doesn't just happen overnight." And she's like, "No. I'll have a good time in 2 years max, 2 years." And she hung around for 2 years, and she did have a good time, but like she worked bloody hard for it. And yeah, she hung around, I think, because she did get a fair bit of opportunity, and she's moved on to a more opportunity and stuff that she wanted to progress in. So yeah, good luck to her. But yeah, it's I've got good team members, and I as much as I appreciate everything they do for me, and that they always want to get a bit more out of it, and you just got to kind of find a bit more of a creative way. And my dogs, the older dogs, I'm lucky enough, they're pretty set in their ways anyways. They've got my bad habits I've put into them. If they get another one,
And while we're on that topic of young people coming out and having a go, is there any advice to someone like coming into it?
Yeah, make a phone call. Just keep making the phone call. I don't know how many times I've failed in this job, just trying to get work and that, and you'd be surprised at how many people are willing to talk to you and have a good conversation and that, and point you in a right direction. I think, yeah, at the end of the day, if your attitude's right and you're willing to do the work, you're going to succeed in agriculture. There's no doubt that there's plenty of work there. Everyone that I ever talk to, they're always looking for workers. So, and yeah, that's all I ever hire on. Most of our people come out of the city. So we've got a girl that's full-time with us at the moment. She's from Adelaide. So other girls have been another girl was from Melbourne. I've got a bloke who's just out of Colac. He never worked sheep in his life, and he's been with me for 4 years. So, like, it's just one of those things. I think in our game, if we want that gun person that's got dogs, got all the ability, they're subcontractors most of the time now.
Yeah.
Mate, what advice would you give to someone not to do?
In general.
Yeah, like someone that's like, you know, I want a job, mate. And go, okay, cool. And what wouldn't you hire them on?
Big red flag.
What would be a red flag for you?
A big red flag is not wanting to try things, I suppose. Like when you talk to someone, you get if they're enthusiastic, they keep asking questions. So if you're on the phone to a person during an interview and it feels like you have to make conversation, that's a big red flag. Like I know when I made my first phone call to get a job, I rang the bloke's home number, and this is a fella that ran midfield mates, and I talked to him for about half an hour. And I was only 17. I was just keen as, and he was keen as to talk to me. So I feel like if you're keen and they're not, well, that's a red flag. I wouldn't personally be optimistic about that job. But if I rang someone and they weren't real talkative and asked a lot of questions to me, yeah, that's definitely
attitude.
Yeah. And realistically, a lot of the people that I interview haven't got a lot of experience in agriculture. So unless they've got experience, if they had a degree or a apprenticeship that they've already done. Really, attitude's mainly the only thing you've really got to go off.
Absolutely.
You know, and good references for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mate, speaking about attitude, I love how you've mentioned a couple of times tonight about like people pushing up to you in the cradle. Like you're not just sitting back in the next pen whistling dogs up the front, sending spear and sheep at people. Like your attitude's hands on and getting in there yourself, and that should be inspiring to your team. You know, if you're prepared to get in there and do some of the shit and the hands on stuff yourself, like, you know, like why shouldn't younger people go, oh, cool, if he can do it, I want to have a crack, like, you know, lead from the front kind of thing.
Yeah, and as I've probably had been doing this for longer, I've tried a lot of different things. I've you know, you develop, you kind of get systems in place to kind of push people in a way for their strengths and all that. And you know, a fella that does landmarking with me, his biggest strength is throwing lambs. He loves throwing lambs because I said to him, right, that's your go-to. Like, he's not real good at vaccinating and doing tails at the same time. Just extra jobs rattle him a bit. But if you say, righto, you know, go your hardest, and I'll pay an extra 10 cents if you freaking can do 2,500, throw 2,500 a day. Well, he just goes, and he's been fantastic. But been a couple of times where he caught out, and I thought, well, you know, that works to a certain extent. But yeah, definitely being more hands on as a leader. I'm starting to see that's probably I need to go a bit more into that role and give people a bit more of an opportunity to try other things as well, like either pushing up with my dogs or getting on the mules and shears or anything like that. It's more people that know the job, the easier it is as an employer. That's for sure. We got more options.
Absolutely, mate. You've mentioned trialing there a couple of times tonight. Well, how's your trialing experience repertoire?
I've got plenty of experience. There's not much of a win column, that's for sure. There's a lot of seconds at the moment, which is starting to it's good because I must be improving a bit.
Red's my favorite color, so I don't mind the blue ribbon.
I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic that the blue ribbons will come if I persevere. Let's just say that with trialing. So I do enjoy the banter and that's for sure. We ran Mount Hess on the weekend, and the banter was a lot. There was a lot of banter, which was very enjoyable.
What format of trialing do you do, mate, or have you had a crack at different ones as well?
I've had a shot at them all. I'm not a big throw shape man. I want to walk off before 15 minutes every time. So that's definitely not my cup of tea. The yard trialing is definitely probably more of my go-to now. I do enjoy that. I do enjoy the utilities, but yard trial is probably the one. And well, I do enjoy the one where he runs a farm trial, which is it's more of a yard trial with just an outside obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably like that one the most, just purely because you get to see a bit of outside work from the dog. But the yard trial is probably where we most of them I go to for sure.
Do you try and encourage your staff to get out and have a crack, like on not just the social scene as well, but like to kind of have a look at what other people are doing with their dogs and maybe like pick up a few things here and there, like stock flow and different things?
Yeah, definitely. I've very hard to get them into it just purely because it's such a good teacher, trialing. Like, nothing makes you watch stock more than trialing because you can't help your dog. Like, you can take such a shortcut at work because you can just help the dog all the time. But until you're put in a position where you can't actually help the dog, like, you don't really learn how to get a good handle on them. So there's a few of them that have had a bit of a go at it, but none of them really taken it under their belt. And I think there will come a day I get a couple that work for me that will enjoy it a lot, but most of them just enjoy the stock side of things. So yeah, no, their time will come, I'm sure.
Have you got a memorable moment in the trialing arena?
Not really. No, there's been plenty of good runs from dogs and that that I've had some success with, but yeah, nothing real memorable. Like I said, I haven't got a very big win column, so yeah, there's a lot of positives that have come out of the last couple of years that I enjoy. But yeah, I haven't got really too many memorable moments.
Has there been someone that's influenced you on that kind of scene?
There's been a lot, probably. Vin helped me a lot at the start when I started trialing. He was always that mentor. He was so good to me in the terms that every time I come off, he would have watched my runs and he would have given me just a few pointers, which helped me a lot, especially if I struggled. Joe Spice has always been a good mentor with me. If I never understood something or I needed something explained, he was always good like that. And then like there's a pretty good crew around Victoria at the moment that in trialing. So like yeah, probably trialing a lot amongst a lot of the top trialers in Victoria is the competition is hot.
Absolutely, some of the best.
Yeah. So yeah, that always makes you better.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a few people that I look up to, and yeah, I'm definitely trying to beat them. That's for sure.
Mate, for someone that buys in a few outside dogs every year, whether it be one of our listeners out there that want to trial or want to work, what advice would you give to them about purchasing or where to go or how to find a dog to suit them?
I think that like you've got to do your research with anything I think you want to get into, and you really got to know the job that you're trying to achieve. So if you're a young jackaroo and you're out in the station, you probably need to look for those people that breed those nice station type dogs like your Motleys and your Gary White and all that. Or if you're kind of a bloke in a sheep feedlot or something like that, or on a cattle property, you probably need to go look for people that do a lot of that type of work, just so you can hopefully get pointed in the right direction. And always just make a call and talk to a few different people, because at the end of the day, there's no harm in it. And you get different. You'll find someone that you just click with, that you like talking to. That seem to be able to relate a bit too. So I think that helps a lot. And yeah, like I've bought a lot of dogs off different people, and the multiple dogs I bought definitely have suited me off studs. So yeah, it's never hurts to try different places for sure, because you never know what you'll get. If you like the parents, that's probably a big thing too. Like if you see a dog work, yeah, find out which stud it's from and talk to the person about it. It's always good. I feel like you do know at the beginning when you see a good dog, because you just see how it works. And a good dog, they just show themselves to you, don't they? Like they just, yeah, like you might, yeah. I know all the best dogs that I've always liked. You've picked me out pretty quickly, so.
It's a good approach to have, mate, and some good feedback. Mate, is there anyone you'd like to see us sit down and have a yarn with?
Yeah, Craig Ogie would be unreal. Like, he's always someone that I've always talked to a lot about dogs, and I've got a bit of stuff in my line from him, and it's nothing but good. Another probably person would be, and I think you'd have to get in with another bloke, Brad Watts, and I can't believe it. I've got another mental blank now, but there's an old fella that we do a fair bit of work with, John Agnew, and he's been in the 3 shape a long time, but he's got a lot of dogs, and he's trained a lot of dogs, like Mary McCrab, and he's a wealth of knowledge, and an all-round top bloke. And yeah, him and Brad pretty joined at the hip, so and it'd be a good conversation. He always adds a bit of entertainment, so.
Yeah, beautiful. No, we'll put those down and see if we can get in contact with those guys, mate. Thanks heaps for that.
One last question, though, before you do your little wrap up.
I don't even know what the question is, mate, so.
If you were a crayon, what colour would you be and why?
That's...
Crayon. Oh, no, I suppose just red, because McIntosh Ag's just red, I suppose. So friggin' I always like red, so my use red. It's a pretty bland answer, but yeah,
That's
I've got
right.
nothing.
And they're the colour ribbons he's taken home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should be thinking you're a blue, not a red.
Yeah, mindset.
Well, as a crayon too, I'd probably want to paint a bit of bloody mark a few of my mates with a bit of red crayon too, especially put a bit of lipstick on a few of the fellas. So yeah, I've got nothing other than that, mate. So yeah, friend.
That's
cool. That provides a bit of entertainment, anyways.
No, I love it. I'm looking forward to the next question that you asked to the next person on now.
Yeah.
They're just I've got no idea what the question is myself. So
I don't know half the time.
Ross, thank you very much for your time tonight, mate. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And I know you got some young ones in the background there. We could hear them there a bit earlier. So hopefully that's all cool. Mum's onto that. And thanks heaps, mate. We really appreciate it. To all our viewers there tonight, got on and listen. Thank you to everyone listening back. We appreciate that and I hope you enjoyed it. And please remember, we learn every day, and the day we stop learning from each other will be a sad one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.